And it's time to talk about some favorites of what I have been watching. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you some of my favorite TV shows that I watched in 2020 that are now complete. So these could be shows that finished this year or finished many years ago, but they are TV series that I finished watching to their completion in 2020. I have done a separate video. I don't know which order these are going up in, but I have done a separate video about the top 10 shows that I started in 2020 that either I haven't finished watching yet or they are continuously, like they have been renewed kind of situation. If that's up, I will link it in the cards. If it is not, I will not. So what I've decided to do is I've split this into two sets of 5 TV series. I picked 5 one-season shows, and then I picked 5 multiple season shows. It kind of didn't feel fair to pit a show that has like 7 seasons versus something that has 1. So that's what I decided to do. These will be spoiler-free videos. I just will give a sense of what the show is about as well as my, like, what I love about it. And let's get this party started because there are quite a few. And I am also pre-filming this a little bit, so if anything, I finished anything else in its entirety, I will leave it in the description box below if it ended up that it would have been on this list. I feel like that's pretty unlikely, but it is possible. But just for full disclosure, this is being pre-filmed just a little bit. But so let's get to it. So first we're going to do the series that are one-season series, and this I'm going to do from my least most favorite to my most favorite. So coming in at number 5 is The Loch. This is a long arc mystery series set in Scotland, the Loch being like Loch Ness, I ended up watching it on CBC Gem. It's a 1-season series and I really enjoyed it. It's a bit more grisly than I would normally watch, but it's like a sort of smaller town, touristy town, and then something pretty hefty happens, so people come from the outside, the experts and such, and mystery, ensues, secrets are revealed, people looking at their neighbors, that it's sort of that kind of show, and I quite enjoyed it. And this is one that I started watching it on CBC when it was airing live, I don't know, maybe in 2018, but then something else was on at the same time. That happens to me all the time for TV. But then I noticed it was on CBC Gem, so I watched it on Gem, which is their streaming app. So I was really happy to get back to this one. I watched it early in 2020. It might have been one of the first or second series that I finished, but it was great. It's just 6 episodes, and I quite enjoyed it. Next up we have, Stumptown. Oh, the whole poster didn't fit on there. So this is one that started in 2019. It was a new TV series, and then it finished off in 2020, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, I have it on my 2020 list, so that must have been the case. It must have been a fall-winter show. This features a woman who is, what is the right way to describe it? She was in the military, and then she becomes a PI. She has PTSD, and she's also taking care of her brother. And so it's her, so I can't remember if she was breaking into the PI business. I think that was it. I think she sort of started doing it and then started doing it more formally, like just sort of like helping people out, and then started doing it more formally. And it stars Kobe Smulders, who is in the Marvel films, and I really enjoyed it. And she is quite a character, and I loved the physicality of her character. She is really good at hand-to-hand combat, which is really nice to see. But this is one show that initially, this makes me so sad. I only found this out while researching this. It actually was renewed, but due to COVID, the fact the second season wouldn't be available until like April 2021 or something, so they actually decided to cancel it instead, and I am just not happy with that. It was really nice to see a female-led show, especially one that had the sort of like physicality going on into it, and it was also quite complicated. There was some interesting friend relationships and secrets from the past, that tends to be a theme. So it did also have that sort of, say help someone each week, but also there was a longer story as well, which is something that I tend to like, which I'm sure will not be the first time that comes up. But I was really sad to hear that this one ended up that it was just they were just leaving it at the one season. It also stars Michael Ealy, who is great, and I really enjoyed it. So, but it's done. So just one season of Stumptown. Next up we have And Then Then There Were None. Oh, so this was really good. This is a 2-part series where each of the parts is like an hour and a half long. It did air on TV, but I think it gets sort of more into miniseries category, but I watched it as TV, so I'm including it as TV. This is obviously based on the Agatha Christie novel. I watched, again, the first episode when it aired on CBC years ago, and then didn't watch the second because something else was on at the same time. But it was available on Hoopla, and I just wanted to test out how Hoopla worked with the Amazon Fire Stick, so I rented the first one just to see how it did, and then I was like, oh wow, yeah, this is really good. I was very engaged in it, so I decided to rent the second one, so I watched the whole thing. This has some really awesome actors in it, including Charles Dance and Aidan Turner, and I don't have all of the names here. Those were my 2 favorites. And also, I forgot. Oh, I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name. He's in the new Star Trek movies as Captain Pike. It's not going to come to me. Anyway, so I quite enjoyed this. It's a great story. It's a one setting mystery situation. The book is excellent, though. If you haven't read the book, I would highly recommend reading it. It's one of the best books that I've read. And I don't read tons of mystery, but wow, it is like spot on. And so I really enjoyed the adaptation. And I'm thrilled that I got to check it off as done, too. I'm a completist, what can I say? What else we got? Oh, The Prisoner. I am not a number. I am a free man. So this one is, this is a slight cheat because I have actually seen The Prisoner before. I remember watching it in syndication when I was younger. I used to watch it with my brother on Saturday afternoons. And then later I rented it from the library, or borrowed it from the library, and ended up watching the whole thing. But I watched it this year from start to finish, as a sort of not quite in the background, but while I was doing stuff on the computer, and it's such a great show. Oh my god. So it's Patrick McGoohan. That's his name, right? It doesn't say. Yeah, Patrick McGoohan. So this is from the 60s, if the picture is not very not clear on that. And he works for a government agency, maybe a spy agency, but a government intelligence agency, and he discovers something, and he's not happy about it, and he's gonna quit. The intro, it tells the whole backstory, and I love the intro. And then he wakes up one day in the village, and at the village everyone goes by a number, not a name, and it is very restrictive, and it's kind of, in a weird way, it's a sort of a dystopia utopia situation, and but he's trying to get down to the bottom of things, of what's really going on, and why is he here and stuff. But because he's an intelligence officer, or worked for an intelligence agency, he doesn't necessarily go about things in a direct and sort of angry way, but in more sort of creative ways. I really enjoyed rewatching this. It was so much fun. I watched this on Shout Factory TV, which again, I used the Amazon Fire Stick for that, which worked for this, but then when I was watching something else, I had some trouble, so maybe I needed to update the app or something. I don't know. And you can also, whatever's on the app, you can also watch usually on their website, and they have a fair amount of lots of stuff, and I think they might have Sapphire and Steel, which I've never seen, which is a science fiction show that with time travel that always sounded really interesting, but I just missed it. I never, it wasn't available, but I think they have it. Anyway, The Prisoner, I really enjoyed it. And so, yeah, let me know if you've seen it, because it's one that it was a lot of fun to rewatch. And because I watched it start to finish, I decided to include it on this list. So what else we got? Okay, so the last of my one season shows is The First. Oh, I love The First. I watched this really, really early on in the year. Here in Canada, it's available on Prime. It features, it stars Sean Penn in the lead, and it is near future set about a mission to Mars. And this is one that I feel like it's I think people, it wasn't renewed. I don't think it was well received. And I think it's one where people thought it was science fiction and really it's drama. And it is drama, drama. It is about relationships. It is about complicated decisions. It is about like really intense, like just big life emotional world stuff. Like, and I loved it. And it was really cool to see. Like it's interesting to see near future stuff, right? So it's just like the tech is beyond us going to Mars, like a manned mission to Mars, human mission to Mars, I guess is the best way to say it. Does it say? It doesn't say that. So Sean Penn, two-time Academy Award winner. Now I'm trying to remember when he won for. When was the... Oh, I'm not going to remember offhand, so I'm not going to spend time on that. I really like Sean Penn. I think he's a great actor. He was great in this. And like the story of family and, you know, and also the contribution to the world and tough decisions and history and like personal history and relationship. Like it was just so good. It was so good. I have not heard anyone talk about this one. And I think because for me, I just feel like it was presented as science fiction. People thought it was science fiction. It is drama. It is drama. And it's slow burn and emotional and very, like, I feel like it's adult. Like the relationships are complicated and I really appreciated it, and so it was a really great watch. So I highly recommend that. If you like drama, I highly recommend that. If you like science fiction that's more action-centric, this isn't a good fit, so I want to suggest it for that. I think now we're on to multiple season shows. I think that was, because that was definitely my favorite of the one season shows that I watched. So now we're on to multiple season shows, and I was a little surprised to see this one make the cut, but it did, and that is The Exorcist. So this was a 2-season show that was on Fox. I watched the first half of the first season when it aired, and then just dropped the ball, and then I came back to it when it came onto Netflix, and I started from the beginning. And it's an interesting interpretation. I don't think it's not a direct sequel or direct redux of the original films or the film series. I haven't read the book, so I don't know how much it connects with that. But I do feel like this is a bit more like, it doesn't do it quite as well as the Haunting of Hill House, but it does sort of take its own spin on things. And so it does definitely reference and sort of connect to the film, but it also exists on its own thing. So it's like, if you've seen the film and you know the film, like you will get the connections, but you don't need to. So, but I do feel like it wasn't quite as crafty at that, and it wasn't as important as The Haunting of Hill House, the first season of that. I've only seen the first season of that. So, and this is also a bit of a complicated situation because I actually thought the first season of this was great. It was really interesting. I love the two lead Exorcist guys, especially the lead one. Oh, I don't think it has his name. Every soul is a battlefield. But the main guy. He was in the live version of Jesus Christ Superstar, and he's also in Flesh and Bone, which I haven't seen yet and I want to see, which is a dance drama. His acting, so good. So good. He's I imagine he's a theater actor. He was in Jesus Christ Superstar, so that's musical theater, so I imagine he's a theater actor. And he was so good. And then the young Exorcist was really good as well, really compelling. And I think so with that also it has the same dynamic as the film. But it does it pushes some buttons. I thought it was scary. I will admit that. I thought it was scary. And I thought the first season was really good, but I didn't think the second season was great. And if I would go back and rewatch it, I probably would just rewatch the first season. The second season had some interesting elements to it. I liked some of the casting that they brought in and some interesting choices, but overall it didn't quite work for me. So and so that's why it is the 5th out of 5. But these also I am doing by number of seasons. Again, a 2-season show is not going to compete with a 5 or 7 season show. Speaking of, next up we have Blindspot. Okay, so this is a bit of a weird one because I actually ended up not watching the entire show. I did watch this when it came out. I absolutely loved it. We followed Jane Doe. She wakes up with tattoos all over herself and no memory, so we're dealing with an amnesia situation, and she gets there's a message for her to meet Kurt, who is an FBI agent, and that is played by Sullivan Stapleton, right? He's from the Animal Kingdom, the the film, and this one again is a sort of like case a week, but also a long arc mystery because they're trying to figure out who is Jane, what's her past, what's her history, and then the tattoos give them clues to situations, like current day situations that they need to solve. So there's a long arc mystery with her, a long arc mystery with external stuff, and then also there's trying to it's sort of like a against the clock, fix something before something blows up. So it's a very action heavy show, but I really, really liked it. I really like Kurt Weller and Jane as characters, and the whole team. It has quite a nice ensemble cast as well. But I saw season 1, 2, and then half of season 3, and then season 5. So I just fell off, and I felt like when I stopped watching in season 3, it didn't feel like it was going as well. I didn't enjoy it as much. I didn't come back to it as much. It was also on at a very awkward time for me to watch. And I watch mostly via antenna. So if it's not a good time, or if it's on at the same time as something else, this one was not at a good time, not at a time I could reliably watch it. So I ended up falling off. And then when I heard the 5th season was going to be the final season, I was like, I'm in. I want to see how this rounds off, and I was really, really thrilled to do so. Because I enjoy the cast. I wanted to see what happened, and and so it was fun, and so I enjoyed Blindspot. It's lots of explosions and lots of action, and I like the characters, and that works for me. And okay, so Arrow. Okay, so now we're on to this is Arrow is a 7-season show. It was on the CW. I loved it from the beginning. From the absolute first episode. I used to wear my green hoodie every Wednesday because it was Arrow Day, and I would watch it live, and I was with it from beginning to end. I know a lot of people like tapered off in the middle, and I can kind of understand why, but I've watched enough sort of action adventure-y type of shows to know that anything longer than 5 seasons, you do get to have some bumpy bits, and they went some places that I was kind of like, really? Where the real world, it's could that actually happen? But generally speaking, I just adored the show. It has great action in it. Really like the relationships. I love the group of characters that we follow, and of course Stephen Amell as Arrow, he was great, and I felt so right from the beginning. He has a large emotional capacity, and I think you need that in a lead role, to have someone who shows lots of different emotions, and he does sort of lead a double life because it's a superhero situation. And so if you're unfamiliar, it starts with he plays Oliver Queen, who ends up being who sort of disappears, and he's thought to be dead, and then he comes back, and he's on a mission to save his city, and often the tagline is, "You have failed this city," and I just loved it. Without question, I love it, and I love so many of the characters on it. The only thing I didn't enjoy about Arrow was the crossover episodes between all of the different CW shows. That actually really bothers me, that for one episode a season, we're expected to watch multiple seasons of other TV shows. I'm not down for that. So, because they often did a crossover with The Flash or DC Legends of Tomorrow, I think also Batwoman or Supergirl, I'm not sure. And sometimes it was a weekly event where each episode from each of the shows connected to each other. And I'm like, I don't like it. And so eventually I just stopped watching the crossover episodes because I found that I could, watch the one before and watch the one after. And if there was anything I really, really needed to know, they would include it on the previously on. So, and that's, I'm critical of that with the Marvel universe as well. I didn't like that with like the movies and then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then that's when I stopped watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is like when you had to time it to when you saw which episodes to then seeing, I think it was Thor Dark World. I'm like, I'm out. I'm not doing that. So that was my only criticism of Arrow. Other than that, I loved it. I loved the relationships in it. I loved the ensemble cast. Arrow, the character of Arrow himself. There was also lots of reoccurring characters that I really enjoyed seeing some from other shows that I was familiar with, not like the character, just actors I know from other works. And I liked all the seasons. I thought they had great guest stars, they had great big bads, they had great questions, they had great challenges, and in terms of a show that ended up being 7 seasons long, I think it had a good character arc for Ollie, or Oliver, as well as the development with the characters around him, including some really tough choices. So I really thought it was a great show. I loved it. I finished this year, early, but I didn't finish till the summer. I didn't want to, but I finally did, and it was worth it. I love the show. Next up we have The Good Wife. Okay, so it probably feels completely different than so many of the other things that I've watched. So this is a drama. It stars Juliana Margulies as Alicia, and she is a character who, her husband is, I think he's a politician, and who it's been revealed like that he's definitely been with women, but also like prostitutes, but also there was some corruption, like he took money or something. Wow, that's hilarious. I can't remember. But the big thing is that she sticks by him. She sticks by him while he's in prison. She gets back into the workforce as a lawyer. So this follows her story. And like, I remember when this came out and I heard the premise and I was completely not interested at all. And then it was recommended to me. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. It's so good. It is so good. And it's a drama, and I loved it. And I loved all of it. This is a 7-season show, but it did not have a rocky season. There was one season, I can't remember if it was season 6 or season 5. I think it was season 6. I almost found it too hard to watch. The emotional level and intensity of what was going on was almost at a point that I couldn't watch, but I was so close to the end and I was determined to finish it that I kept with it, and I'm really, really glad that I did. And I also would say that this definitely feels like a feminist show. It's great to have a female lead. You see a lot of the challenges that she comes against being a woman and the expectations of being in certain roles, which is again something I was like, given the title and given what I thought the show was about, I was a little surprised at, but I thought it was great. And I love the ensemble cast as well. Again, that's another thing that I guess I really love, ensemble cast. And this also has a case a week, but then also some longer arc stories as well. So again, something that I love. So this was just so good. So very, very good. And this is also one that I started it last year, but I mostly watched it this year. And I watched it like every day for a long period of time because I realized if there was one show that I was currently watching on a streaming service, because this is on Prime here, it was on Netflix and then it switched to Prime. I was like, if there's one show that I would be mad that I didn't get to see the whole thing, what would it be? And I was like, The Good Wife. So I was like, okay, I'm making it a priority. This is the show that I want to finish while it's available, and I'm thrilled that I did. So it was great. In terms of a drama, like the emotional stuff, there were some episodes that dealt with some really tough themes, and I'm like impressed that the show went there, but I found it a little unexpected, and so that was a bit hard. But also, it's like, that's also life, right? That's also life. And speaking of, that's not even a segue, but I imagine it's not going to be a huge surprise to people what my final most favorite show is, that is 15 seasons long, that finished just recently. Supernatural. It's probably my favorite show of all time. I don't know. I would have to do a list. Let me know. Do you want to know that list? I loved it. I loved it. And this one I was a late adopter to. I initially saw it and I gave it a pass because I misunderstood episode 6, which is Skin. I misunderstood what was going on in that situation, so I stopped. But my sister Susie insisted that I would like the show, and I did. And we watched it together for years. And I absolutely am so thrilled. So thank you, Susie, so much for insisting I watch it. If you're unfamiliar, it follows Sam and Dean Winchester, who are brothers who fight monsters and or evil, depending on, or that's an interesting question. And they fight for people who can't fight for themselves. They fight for the world. They fight against, lots of different people. It's like and it is a supernatural show, so there's paranormal stuff, there's supernatural stuff, there is lots of mythologies throughout the 15 seasons, but it's about siblings, it's about making your own choices, it's about free will, it's about relationships, it's about family. It's primarily in a lot of ways about family, and I absolutely adored it, and I was a wreck watching the last couple episodes, but it was worth it. It was worth it, and it was so good. And I used to rewatch the entire show over the summers for the new one, but it's 15 season long, so I had to stop that around season 8, I think, and it does have some rocky seasons, I'm not gonna lie. Season 7 is like, what? But I definitely want to go back and rewatch the whole thing. This one, I think I own all of it in one shape or form. But season 1 through 14 is available on Prime here in Canada. I highly recommend it, although it is violent and there is a fair amount of torture throughout the seasons. But if you like stories about siblings, about family, about going up against insurmountable odds, this is the show. And I am thrilled. I'm thrilled that I enjoyed it and was able to see it all the way to the end. That was a joy. That is probably the longest TV show I have ever seen in terms of seasons. I think it is actually 15 seasons, I think, is the longest I have ever seen. It's the longest running genre television, I think, out there. So that's saying something. So there you go. That was a bit longer than I expected. I guess maybe I should have broken that out into 2 videos. Oh well, no for next time. I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know in the comments a show that you watched this year, that you finished, that you really, really enjoyed, or a show that you're currently watching that you want to make sure that you finish and maybe give some inspiration to make that final push like I did with The Good Wife. I am so glad that I did that. I think it's good to do that every once in a while. Just be like, okay, this one's the one, I'm in till the end. And yeah, because it can be a wonderful thing to watch something through all the way to the end. Just like this video. Thank you to the ones that did. All right, I am going to be back soon with another video, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.